Welcome to Own Your Essence, the podcast where healing meets empowerment. We're your host
Lee Walzak.
and April DeMille, two psychic mediums and a life coach specializing in grief, trauma, and toxic relationship recovery. This is a space for deep conversations, powerful transformations, and real, raw healing.
Each week, we'll explore topics ranging from the metaphysical to emotional grief, addiction, mental health, spiritual wellness, and self discovery. Through interviews and personal insights, we aim to spread awareness, foster connection, and support you. You're in the right place if you're ready to set boundaries, reclaim your confidence, and step into your true power. Let's own your essence together.
Podcast disclaimer. The content of this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as medical, psychological, or legal advice. If you need medical or mental health support, please contact a qualified healthcare provider. This podcast also contains explicit language and discussions on sensitive topics, including but not limited to abuse, trauma, addiction, and mental health struggles. Listener discretion is advised, as some content may be triggering or not suitable for younger audiences. By continuing to listen, you acknowledge and accept these terms. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Own Your Essence podcast, where we get to have deep transformational conversations with some of our favorite people. We are your host,
Lee Walzak.
and April DeMille. And this is the part where I might usually try to insert some brilliant one-liner, but today I got nothing. So take it away, Lee.
All out of brilliant one-liners today. It's all right.
Fresh out.
So today we are sitting down with someone who is new to both me and April. Her name is Nicole Hope, and I'm really excited about this conversation. Nicole Hope is a Neuro-Body Consultant, intuitive energy practitioner, and the founder of Bodywise Wellness, where she helps midlife women reclaim their health by rebuilding their relationship with their bodies through both science and intuition.
Nice. She's rolling and rocking with all the cool stuff.
She is.
Yeah, I love that. Okay,
She's a combination of everything we're into.
For sure. For sure. Hey, lady.
Hello.
So Lee just read your intro, and we were getting ready to jump in these awesome conversations with you and find out a little bit more about what you do and how you got here and all the things.
Wonderful. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Awesome. So did you want to start, Nicole? We did just read your intro, but did you want to start and just briefly explain a little bit about you and what you do?
Yes. So I do intuitive stress resilience coaching actually, because I think it's so important for us to be really using our intuitive abilities through coaching, but also to help other people learn how to gain a better connection with themselves. But the foundation of the work I'm doing is actually nervous system regulation and redefining what a relationship looks like with the physical self and the intuitive self so that you can start really maximizing your potential for joy and happiness and health and kind of across the board transformational so that you can just get the most out of life. I think is about the gist of where it comes from, but really from the foundation of like, if you get your body, then you actually get better connection with your intuitive or spiritual self. And then from there, everything's kind of limitless opportunity.
I love that. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would it be safe for you to say that if someone has a seriously dysregulated nervous system and they're constantly in survival or fight or flight, that it's really hard for them to actually manifest and create a reality that's different? Would you agree with that statement?
1000%.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I think what you do is so absolutely necessary, because I feel like in a world where we are typically responsible for creating our own outcomes and our own realities, then how do we get into that place where we can manifest that magic if we're always so fucking afraid, so out of alignment?
Yes. And it's an interesting space. My kind of origin story, if you will, is being so very unspiritual and very like traditional
Yeah.
being in my raising and stuff like that. And until I got really depressed, like seriously depressed, like
Yeah.
suicidal depressed. And I had two children at the same, that my kids were really young. And um that kind of pivot that I made to seeing someone who was, I mean, I tried a lot of normal doctory things and functional medicine, whatever, and then ended up seeing a spiritual counselor who did she did energy work on me and helped me align my chakras. And I was like, okay, like I don't know what you're doing, but that's cool. Like you do you kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
left feeling amazing. I'd had acupuncture, which I think, those have this beautiful overlap.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah.
because it's that energy movement, but I really
Mhm.
had no concept for any of it. But that allowed my belief is that allowed my nervous system to relax enough in that moment to give me a breath of fresh air and literally see life differently. I
Yeah.
went from this gray view, which now I understand that's like this nervous system piece, to like seeing color again. And that kind of that pushed me into trying to understand where all these things align. And then as I moved into more spiritual and intuitive work, I actually had a vision of how the chakras overlap with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So
Okay.
it's this beautiful intermingling of everything, all those lower chakras being how we show up in our kind of human form.
Right.
And if those are congested, and like you're saying, we're in fight or flight,
Yeah.
then we get very little access up here.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that too. I would agree that when one's off, they're kind of all off at that point. So
Yeah.
Do you want to, Nicole, just quickly explain too? Because I'm not actually sure what it means, but the hierarchy of need part, what is that exactly?
Maslow's hierarchy of needs is like a psychology kind of based concept, and it's old. I mean, not super old. And now in this moment, I'm like, how much do I know? I mean, I have it. I have it on my wall right now. But it's basically like our foundation is it's built like a pyramid. And so if we don't feel safe, meaning like shelter, food, all the basics, we can't move up to the next one, which is feeling safe around others. And then you move up to the next one, and then it's understanding yourself and self-esteem. And then the idea is by the time you get to the top, it's like enlightenment and self-actualization and all of that. But it comes from this basis of
so
the
like your
base, like,
primal body has to have the basics first before it can
yes,
elevate. Okay.
yeah. And that's essentially how the nervous system works, right? The
Yeah.
nervous system has to feel safe for us to access even our own brains in a intentional way. So it's very, and in speaking to manifestation, all that, like subconscious beliefs, do we even get access to thinking for ourselves, or are we always in kind of sometimes what I refer to as our like robot habit mode,
Yeah.
where we're not thinking because our body's just going do this because it's safe, do this because it's safe, and so on.
Right.
And then we don't really even get choice. We kind of lose our freedom to choice.
Well, that's kind of true anyway, because even in my studies of like PTSD, when your amygdala is set off, then even your, what is it like? It's the it's the frontal part, where your,
Prefrontal cortex?
yeah. So it's like where your speech and your communication, it gets shut off when the amygdala is like, triggered. And so you can't even connect thoughts and words together, like it completely shuts it down. So I do know that we can't even access our own, like it's brain injury. It's quite literally like having brain damage. It's a big deal.
It is. Even negative thoughts alone can actually shut off different parts of the brain for
Right.
us to be able to engage.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even take severe. I think I think as a society we just haven't learned, but and or haven't spread the word that there are so many like workable moving parts in our brain and in our nervous system that we can be more empowered in our own lives. If we just knew like a couple finite things going on, we would be able to make some pretty big adjustments in our lives, which is what I'm trying to help spread the word, A, and then B, help people in more personalized fashion to make those transformations.
Well, that's fucking fabulous, and I can get behind all that.
Thank you. Thank you. It was
Great.
actually amazing. This week alone, I had a client who's been seen multiple therapists and all different kinds of counseling, which is valuable. I've had therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists that is valuable, so I never want to underline it, but
Right.
she wasn't getting the progress. I mean, it was
Mhm.
there was a redundancy, if you will, to the healing. That's
Mhm.
kind of
I would agree
never.
with that just based on even some of my own experiences.
Yeah, well, that was my thing too. So it was
Mhm.
kind of this never-ending story, which makes sense from the sense that every time I'm drawing up something from my past, I'm reliving it. My body's going back through similar things, unless
Yeah.
I'm doing something more somatic or a level of visualization to try to rewrite that.
Mhm.
But we did we did a session this week, and I literally just, I mean, I tend to run energy on people, but I don't have to. And I just guided her back somatically into her body to get some visions for herself. Like fictitious, it was a picture of a pool that had nothing in relation to her past. And she went in the pool and felt comfortable and swam around. And the next day she called me and she was like, I've never felt so good. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's how we are relating to these couple different features within us. And we have so much power to heal. I mean, I went from literally depression and, like I said, suicide to like, here I am now. And this is very much who I am. There's an
Yeah.
authenticity in it, which makes a big difference too. And I feel great. And, there's healing that can very real healing that can take place when we learn to connect with this in our physical body a different way.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. I want to circle back to something you said a second ago, actually, Nicole, about the chakras and how if our nervous system is unregulated, then you said it's very hard to be up here. Um, I'm curious if you've had the experience with maybe yourself or people that you've worked with, because I know this is in my experience that if we're using the chakra system, our root chakra, represents like safety in our bodies and in the world around us. And I have always, I mean, I'm better about it now, but there's always been this challenge of kind of safety and feeling that safety in my body and all the things. So I found for myself that in order to kind of not be in the root chakra area or, down kind of in those more rooted areas, I would very much be up here all the time, where it was kind of
Mhm.
like I was, almost using maybe my different intuitive capacities and things like that just to kind of escape into the up here. So I'd be curious if you have found that with people and what your thoughts about that piece are.
That's super insightful. Yes, and yes, yes, yes. So, um, I would agree. I have lots of friends in the intuitive field who do all kinds of magical, amazing, wonderful things. And I would offer thoughtfully and respectfully that so many of them are not in their bodies. Because I do think for a lot of us who are maybe more inclined to move into that spiritual space, even just or pulled towards our intuition, that that is a, I want to choose my words really wisely, that it's a defense mechanism
For
almost
sure.
to bounce out of the body and then live up there. Because some of my most amazing, who can connect in ways that I will never know or understand, cannot get into their body. The second they are in some level of somatic feeling in any of the other chakras or just in their body altogether,
Yeah.
they are wildly uncomfortable and then keep trying to bounce back to that. So it's great because that's knowledge and it means that we can go and fish around, if you will, in what's happening in the lower chakras or in that nervous system and do some beautiful healing. And then that capacity to kind of bridge the lower half of us and the upper half of us, right? From the center point, which is always like, that's how I see the heart.
Yeah.
So our heart is that center point. And interestingly, our thymus, which I refer to as
Mhm.
like upper heart, I believe will bounce us out of one of the other, right? Too much of that kind of trauma in the lower piece of us will make us ill if we try to get too much of the upper, or we can be in the upper if it's too much down in the bottom. But if we aren't kind of balancing both of them, the thymus kind of knocks us down, right? It
Yeah.
makes us sick or whatever, too much stress. But I think we underestimate how much it can come from either direction. But I love that it's the center spot. Like, I think it's this beautiful gauge that's going like, you've got too much going on in there.
Yeah.
You need to simmer down. So you got to pick a side or or whatever. But
Well, and
it's
that balancing act is like it's not easy work. Like I can honestly say, even from my own experience, I love to hide up in the upper ethers. Like I'm like, fuck, this reminds me of why I hate being human. Oh yeah, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, absolutely. Packing my bags. Fuck y'all. But like it's but like it's so I'm trying to, be more balanced over the last few years in my approach as well. And it takes some time. It really does. You have to give yourself a lot of grace when you're trying to balance both worlds.
I love that. Yeah, grace is so important. And the time factor is important. I think it's so easy for us to go, I'm going to try this, just like anything, like weight loss in January or whatever. And when we're not getting this rapid results, then it's easy to get dissuaded
Yeah.
and try and then try some other like direction. But it's so valuable for us to be in patience with. I pull on my like 20 tarot decks or oracle card decks, and I'm pulling almost every day. One card comes up that's all patience. And it has its own whatever card deck it is. I'm like, wait, what was this one? Oh, the patience card again. Cool. Okay. I'll wait.
I would definitely say that being humans probably the biggest test on patience ever. Like it's
Yes.
just a constant lesson.
Yes, it is. I think it's so valuable. And so to just that's why I think it's so valuable to understand all the moving pieces.
Yeah.
And I kind of have this philosophy about being in a human body. It's intended to have that contrast and that discomfort and that experiential holding
Yeah.
because that's the point and the purpose of experiencing all of it. But I also think we can not patience, fast track our experiences and still gain great knowledge from them if we understand that we are in human bodies and that the
Yeah.
human body just needs a little finessing more if it's been a long time. But if you can stay on top of it, it only takes a little bit of finessing to keep it kind of on point. And that gives us a huge amount of ability to even just stay healthy so we get to experience more.
Yeah. Would you say that you experience a lot of having to work around your clients' belief systems as well in order for them to help them expand?
Yes, I would
Okay.
almost every so I have this little fun acronym that I created because my business goes by Bodywise Wellness, and the wise took and made into an acronym so that it would be easier for people. And the W stands for wake up to the body's signals.
Oh, I
That's
love
first.
that.
Yeah.
The I actually stands for interrupt patterned behavior and beliefs.
Oh, yep. There you
You have
go.
to.
Yep.
And then the S is self-care, is sustainability.
Yeah.
Because if we aren't kind of doing self-care with some real beautiful intention in some capacity, we can't sustain the pace that we are all trying to live at right now.
Right.
And the E stands for a myriad of things from embodiment to engagement to empowerment.
Love it.
I
Absolutely
love
love
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Um, yeah.
yeah, I love that. I love acronyms too. So yeah.
Makes it easier. I taught first grade for 10 years, so I'm really big into
Oh,
acronyms
there
and
you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
mnemonics and whatever can help people remember better.
Yeah. I love that. Um, just circling back real quick to something you said earlier, in response to my question as well about how some of your most intuitive clients and things like that are really good at kind of being up here and not in their bodies. I'd be curious to know your thoughts around this because I know for me, and this is just how I kind of reference things, through my own experience. But for me, and I think so many, even people that I work with, I see this in really hypersensitive people who come into the world who are very sensitive to the energy around them and maybe have a bit of that heightenedness to them. Um, Especially, I feel like when there's maybe uh, chaos in the home environments or whatever it is in the upbringing, I feel like it also becomes a defense mechanism to kind of walk into a room and then intuitively kind of scan, okay, I need to know how everybody inside this room is feeling, because if they're not feeling good, that could have, repercussions on myself. So I know for me, I think that's where some of this pattern kind of began in my early kind of, development and things. And I'm curious about your thoughts about that, and if you see that and how you help people kind of move on to that, because that can be so ingrained, and when it correlates to feeling safe, our body doesn't always want to let go of it.
Right. And if we come in more sensitive, which I meant just like you have, and I know I have my kids, you can see who has that path. We are more sensitive. So humans by nature have neuroception, meaning like my nervous system's reading your nervous system all the time, assessing threat and voice tone. And obviously 80% of our language is facial features and body language. So we all by nature subconsciously are reading everyone all the time, always assessing threat. So anytime that we're noticing someone behaving, especially behaving one way, but you're feeling them another way, that's super awkward. Right? I'm like, if we gathered together a group of like people pleasers anonymous, they'd all be high sensitive people, and it didn't really probably matter whether they had a lot of like very outward kind of traumatic situations in their youth, or it was like mine was pretty run of the mill, pretty calm, but I'm sure that my parents had levels of anxiety that I did not see. And so you do pick up on that. And as we feel unsafe around those we love, or unpredictable behaviors or whatever, we do create patterns of safety, meaning a higher level of nervous system activation, which is why by the time we're in our teens and 20s, it's really easy for us just to be up there consistently, right? The nervous system creates a habitual space of, we can't take chances anymore. Let's just have all fire alarms or go all the time, which the tricky piece being that then the brain's receiving all that information and is saying, okay, well, nothing's happening right now. And then our beautiful computer brain starts making stuff up, which then starts creating
Yeah.
belief systems which affect how we're seeing everything. And our, the way our brain and body is wired, right, is to always be trying to validate that which we already believe, whether it's happening for real or not. So that's why that I is interrupt beliefs and behavior patterns, because they are real. It has to start with self-awareness. I mean, if there's ever been a more important time for all of us to become acutely self-aware, this would be that moment, because the levels of expectation that we place on ourselves, or that society is placing on us just because of the accessibility to like social media or just paying bills. I mean, everything. I was telling my husband this morning, I'm like, you're just like the speed, right? There's that patient saying the speed for by which we believe we're supposed to be getting things done, and the amount of things we're supposed to get accomplished because it's so easy now is a lot for our brain to process. And if we grew up from a heightened sensitivity place, not knowing how to regulate, which we were never told. I taught first grade. If I could go back in time, I would teach those kids how to self-regulate. I do actually teach mindfulness classes to children now, hoping that I'm like catching them early enough.
Yeah.
But if we're here already, and then life experiences we get older add, and you've got all of the goodness and oddness happening in the world right now, post-COVID and all of it, everyone's probably living in this heightened place. But if we just start working the nervous system, we don't have to go back to our youth. I know I don't want to discount the value of therapy and things. Big T trauma, like extreme, enormous T trauma, often requires some big T, big T therapy. But most of what we're experiencing right now is because our nervous system's just gotten used to being alerted. And if we can knock it off down a little bit a day, through little micro habits, it will start to heal itself. And then we slowly work our way down so that it's not so much a thing anymore. That's like, I'm actually developing a program for, like, created a program for businesses, because I'm like, where is everybody spending most of their time? At work. So if you can start learning some micro habits at work, so that when you get home, you're a little bit lower, then you get to even lower, like calm your nervous system even more, and actually get to relax in the evening maybe, or, share some of that knowledge with your kids, wink, wink, because now you're more knowledgeable. I think our biggest impediment right now in society is just a lack of knowledge. We just don't know ourselves, and we've never really emphasized the value of understanding what's happening in the body.
Well, and like you said too, in this day and age, with society being full force go go go, people don't find the time for themselves to get to know themselves very easily at all.
Right.
So it does make it a challenge. So I think it's really important that that these modalities and lessons are being put out there.
Yes. And we're not, I mean, historically, especially even for myself. So I'm applying it to my own knowledge prior to that really big kind of depression moment in my time. Like, what are you taught to do? If you need self-care, you go get a massage, you go for a walk, which walks still are big time. Massages are big time, or you journal. And I'm like, that's really not like, so I journaled for years. It never helped me.
Yeah,
I
I
do
went through
journal
that too.
now, but a very different. I do journal like I actually do like body talk journaling. So I invite my body to speak through my pen, and I'm like, "What do you need from me?" And
Yeah.
the
So is
first
it like
couple,
automatic writing?
yes,
Okay. Yeah.
yes, but with this intentionality of like, sometimes I do it from a spiritual angle and
Mhm.
say like, hey, what do my guides want me to know right now? But then other times I'm like, I actually named my body Joan of Arc, because I have this philosophy that our bodies were here to, right? Like, from a spiritual point of view, we get our higher selves get put into a physical body, and our physical body's like, okay, I'll do it, whichever, So I picked Joan. I think like Joan's here to keep me alive so that I can focus and pay attention and learn and experience life in its totality without constantly like making sure my heart beats and things like that, right? So I kind of, made it a separate piece of, well, no, separate, a part of me, and it makes it a little bit easier. So I'll just be like, Joan, what do you need me to know? And you would be surprised once that intentionality is placed on a writing thing, like moment, the language that comes out and parts of my body that have pain or whatever will disappear, because as we connect with intentionality, so much of the pain we even feel is from a science side, neuropeptides dropped from stress cycles we never completed, and from a more spiritual energy side, energetic, especially emotions, energy and motion that got stuck inside us because we never felt it. And if we can start letting the body run those cycles and speak its truth, we heal.
Well, right, because in that moment you're actually validating yourself and being a witness to your own journey, and you're giving yourself that safe space to show up. So it makes sense that, oh, finally I feel seen. So now the pain doesn't have to show up for me anymore.
Yes.
So it makes sense to me.
Yeah. And the interesting thing that I've been really trying to dig into recently is this level of authenticity, because of there's quite a bit of science, if you will, that's coming out. This one I'm going to say, maybe I won't say science. There's, because normally when I say it, I want to make sure that people are like, yes, Nicole is not making stuff up and calling it science. Like, everything I've said up until this point has been, this one's maybe a little bit, there are studies being done that show the energetic resonance or frequency in the body when people are experiencing different emotions. And the higher the emotion, the higher the body's frequency. And just for anybody who's questioning that, right? EKGs are measuring energy in the body, and we take that like, oh, cool, EKG, MRI, all these things. That's also energy.
Yeah, like
So
if it's clinical, then all of a sudden it's more valid.
exactly. So I'm trying to go like, we're talking about the same thing. It's just,
Right.
since this is kind of new territory, people haven't adopted it so much.
Yeah.
But they do that for different emotions, and the higher level emotions feel better. And then obviously we always talk about like love is that like the echelon of emotions that, but really, and we'll say, and they're finding out it's actually authenticity. Authenticity has the highest resonance in the body. And if we kind of shake it all down to being a person on this planet growing up, we came down to experience life and maybe have a specific purpose, maybe not, but really to be ourselves. Like a tree is never not trying to be a tree, right? So we came down to be who we are. And because of our nervous system, we end up like winding all over the place trying to compensate so we can be loved and we can be part of the tribe and not kicked out of the herd and eaten by the lion and all those kinds of, animal references. But when we get to calm our nervous system back down, when we get to be in our higher selves or even our higher consciousness in our human selves, we get to start being authentic. And in that authenticity, our body creates coherence. My light is flashing as I'm saying this, so I'm thinking I'm right on point.
Nice.
Like my light is literally like, and so that would make sense that our authentic self has the highest frequency because it's us, unshaken by societal expectations or behavioral trauma or whatever. So we need that path to kind of come back to it. But when we find our authentic self, oh my God, that's where healing and happiness and like manifestation, everything comes from that. But it really starts back with a nervous system that's
I think that
regulated.
that's definitely got to be true because, like, the more unapologetically I tend to even show up for myself, the more I witness massive shifts happening in my reality. So I would have to back that statement.
Thank you. I think it
I see.
takes time to get there.
Yeah,
I
for
tell my
sure. It's a
I tell my
practice.
I tell my clients, and since we get to swear on this show, I can do it my real way. I call it that once you land in your fuck you circle, then you're good. As
You're
long as like
golden.
Abraham Hicks, I'm sure refers to it as the vortex, but I call it the fuck you circle. Once I could just go, I don't care. I
Yeah.
could live on the top of a mountain and talk to my trees and my plants and be perfectly happy, which is generally where I land, and my imaginary unicorns and everything. Like, and I don't care. I can take care of myself and I can love myself wholly.
Mhm.
And all of that's it. Like
Yeah.
that's that authenticity. And the dilemma being is that because we're mammals and we require adults to take care of us for those, that first decade or two, decade and a half, we don't get the luxury of going right into authenticity, right?
Right.
Little kids are authentic. They're not worried about. That's why they yell when they want to yell. They emote when they want to emote. Very healthy, all those things. But it's when it's over time as our subconscious, if you will, the nervous system starts to cater to that. I need to be part of the herd and I need to make sure
Yeah.
my
Like
parents love
wherever
me.
we're masking or however many masks we're wearing.
Yes, that we kind of, we get off our authenticity path, and then that's great because that was experiencing humaning. And then as we become adults, if we
Then we have
find
to
it,
unlearn it all.
yeah, then we get to go like, cool, great lessons, thanks, but this is me, and everyone else can shove off.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Like I see the authenticity part too as like an act of unconditional self-love for ourselves, like it's a fierce unconditional self-love. But I think to mirror or to echo, excuse me, what you were saying, I always hear from spirit, during if I'm connecting on my own or in reading sometimes, you came here to be you. You came here to express as yourself and nothing else, and of course, I think we understand as souls kind of coming in, we understand that this we might fall a little bit off track here, because it's a part of the human experience. And I think some of it is kind of coming back to that place in ourselves. And that's a valuable lesson on a soul level for us. But I think I love what you said though about, it's just coming back to that authentic sort of expression of who you are. I love that you gave your body a name. I love that so much. Um, and everything you said there too totally resonates. So so yeah, I just wanted to
Good.
comment that piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that unconditional love. I think probably then maybe that love frequency that it really is, it's just unconditional love for self. But
Yeah.
that that's probably the thing. Like we always think love is something external to us when really it's a mirror to who we are. And if we can start like owning that, it's huge. And it gives you, I'm going to show love, appreciation for the body, appreciation for self, experience and everything comes with having that beautiful word grace, which April mentioned earlier. Like grace is healing, grace and gratitude. It's two double G.
Yeah.
It's the new
Yeah.
double G.
Well, it's so interesting too what you said though, because I think it's so true and on point that we here, in the physical human reality, see love as something that we have to go out and find, or that, oftentimes is conditional, or, maybe we'll use it as like, I love mac and cheese, like you probably really like mac and cheese, but I think it just, becomes a part of the language in that way and all that. But I know for myself, I do work as a psychic medium. So spirit has always come through to me and said, the type of love that we're talking about is truly unconditional. And if it was conditional, it's not really love anymore. You're kind of talking about something else, which is okay, but that there is this unconditionality about, that type of love. And I think part of it is us kind of balancing that soul piece of us here in the physical, very human worlds.
Yeah. Well, and it's an interesting love is such an interesting word because in our language, just like you're saying, like I love mac and cheese and I really love my kids. Like those don't seem to have the same like strength behind them. And I actually teach a class on self-love and
Mm.
understanding what that means. And in other language, I think like I have it's on a PowerPoint. So sometimes I don't have to remember. I geniusly have created PowerPoint, so I don't have to remember all this word for word, but it's like I think Greek or Roman or Latin has like 99 words for love.
Mm.
And we have
Interesting.
one. We have
Yeah.
one. And so it's love and that's love and that's love and that's love. And like, okay. But we make I think that would be easy for us to say. And honestly, I think in our language currently, 50% of it's like just a deep appreciation or a like for something, right? And the other 50% is actually fear-based love.
Mm.
So follow follow me for 2 seconds down this little road. If you love me, you won't leave me.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
So what is love then?
That's
Safety.
conditioned.
It's safety. Yeah.
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 So that's that's what I teach in this class. I mean, we have to get really curious about, well, everything, but about what we
Well, and I
mean.
think it's also just like people have an attachment to the outcome of what they perceive as love. Like you said, like if you love me, you won't leave me. But that's putting some condition and some expected outcome on this person, and that's not fair.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's
And
not real.
well, yeah. It's a tricky space.
It
Yeah,
is.
again, from Codependence Anonymous right here, like the
Yeah.
leader of the gang. It's a real even in all the work that I do on my nervous system and all the work that I've done in like rewriting my stories and in talking to spirit and like I literally just like when I'm really making decisions, I have to put my hand right here and I'm like, who's talking?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Because in that codependent space, I'm like, oh no, if I'm doing something for someone I care about, this is love. Like I love them, so I'm doing this thing, but I'm like, but am I? Like,
Yeah. Like, is
or
there an underlying other reason that you're showing up in this way, or is it truly from a place of generous like love?
yeah, and it's a dicey game in there because
Yeah.
I even catch myself doing things. I'm like, well, I'm doing this because I love them, but if you really like took out the old gold like shaker pan to get rid of the silt
Yeah.
and all of that, the little chunks that would stay in the thing would be the, oh, but you think if you do this, they'll need you, and if they need you, they'll
Right.
still
Yeah.
love you. And then I'm all, darn it, you got me again.
You're like, I was really trying that time.
Yes. Oh, you get it again. That one's burned me. And I'm like, great. All right. More healing. Yay. Humaning.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
for
can
sure.
I can absolutely resonate with that piece. I love the
Uh-huh.
analogy of the shaker. Um, there was, just to pivot ever so slightly for a minute, there was something on your Instagram that I feel like I just need to read because it was just beautiful and I love it. So if that's okay, I want to
Please.
read this really quick. Um, because this is just your way with words too. It's just great. But it says, "Are you positive you completely understand the point people are trying to make in conversation, like right now? You think you're listening, but your body is scanning, your brain is filtering, your history is interrupting. When your nervous system is dysregulated, communication becomes survival, not connection." And oh, that last piece, Nicole,
Man,
that like that
that
hit
one
me
hits.
so much. And I think that's so beautifully explained. And I was wondering if you could expand on that because I think it's such a, especially right now in our current kind of world, it is such a, how do I want to put this? It's such a prevalent issue that we face that people are kind of talking at each other or maybe yelling at each other. You know, the communication gets very kind of hazy. And sometimes I think, you know, we are in this place where we're trying to be heard by somebody. And I think that's what we want as humans, to be heard on some level, to be witnessed on some level. But, you know, we're trying to be heard by somebody, and then they're, you know, unbeknownst to us, maybe in complete survival mode. So their capacity to listen to what we're saying goes out the window. So it becomes
Yeah.
this whole, you know, it's kind of mess that sort of happens. So I'm wondering if you can kind of expand on that. And also, again, kudos to you for writing that. It was just beautifully put. I
Yeah.
love
No, that's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope more people read it. I feel like I'm like, I think I thought something about like I write something like that and divine guidance or whatever. And I'm just like, hey, I think this is important. Well, I'm glad you saw it.
it. Yeah.
Um, do we have 10 hours to speak about our communication skills as individuals in 2025? Because it ain't great.
No doubt.
I would offer that is probably our weakest system currently. And I don't know if it used to be better or I don't know. I love history and I have yet to be able to figure it out, but I do know right now we are not great communicators. And I've been trying to really hone in my ability to understand, just like you're saying, like, where are we coming in this discussion? And one piece of it actually begins with what kind of conversation do you think we're having versus do I think we're having?
Mm.
Because there's like logistical conversations and there's emotional conversations and there are social conversations.
Right.
And if one person's coming in with an emotional need and one person's coming in doing logistics, you can't even begin to hear each other.
Yeah. You're not
You're
even,
not
yeah.
speaking different languages, right?
Yeah.
So this is it's a thank you for bringing this up. I feel like honestly, we almost have to like start a conversation going like, what do you need from this conversation? And here's what I'm hoping, because that's how I think that's one of the remedies will come. Like you're starting a business meeting. What are we trying to get from this? And if we can start being really authentic on that language, that would be big. However, what you were referring to was like our beliefs and everything backing it up. So if we're in a dysregulated nervous system, all I'm looking for in your language is how you're trying to attack me and if you're safe or not.
Mm.
Mhm.
Period.
Mhm.
That's it. Like and I know in those moments, because I can see like in the couple of relationships that I have where I'm always like trying to figure out where we stand, that's what I leave. And when I go back and play in my beautiful memory headspace of, again, that codependence, I should always pay attention to every word and body feature thing that I replay at nighttime. I mean, I used to before I go to bed. I can go back now and go, whoa, but I'm like, I heard them say this. But then when I replay it, I'm like, oh, but they said this, like, let's say 9 positive things, 1 negative thing. And I leave the conversation going, they don't like me anymore.
Right.
So that's that filter to begin with. And so that can come from a dysregulated nervous system. It can also come from a belief that we got because we felt unsafe, right? And our value is not great, or whatever our beliefs are about ourselves and who we are and how we show up in this beautiful world. If I think that nobody cares about what I have to say, I will only hear or look for validating behaviors and verbiage that come from the people I'm talking to. Because what's a good analogy I use? I call them belief sunglasses. So I create a belief and I put them on, and like you do when solar eclipse and you poke that one hole through it so you don't burn your retinas or whatever. That's how I put it. So you put on these sunglasses, but you've just poked holes to only be able to see body language, tone of voice, prosody of voice, all of that align and validate a belief that I already have about myself.
Yeah.
So it's like basically giving you tunnel vision to whatever story you've already created.
Yes. So you got a belief, and then now you add a dysregulated nervous system to that, which narrows our gaze and lowers our ability to be in, right? When we're in a dysregulated nervous system, that means we'll add chakra to this. Sacral chakra, it like suppresses it. So it keeps us small and tight and narrow. It narrows our focus and our train of attention, all those things, to hyper focus on only things that, again, are either threats or that validate what we already believe.
Right. So
right?
it's
When
like constricting.
Yes. And when we feel calm and open, sacral chakra is open, body is open, body language is open, and we are more receptive, and we can hear what the other person is saying and just be like, oh, okay, like neutral at minimum, and then in agreement or even in disagreement, but have it not be a big deal. So we actually hear more authentically what's happening. Does that seem on alignment? Sometimes I can tangent.
It actually, the moment I heard communication as opposed to connection, and we've gone into this conversation, it actually reminded me of something I've gone through very recently with my my younger kids. So I've got an 18-year-old daughter, my son's 22, and then my daughter-in-law's, she's 20. And the three of them are like best buddies. And we have been going through all these transitions as they're learning how to move into their new adult lives and all these things. And just all the different things that are happening. There's a lot of factors and influences in their life at that age. And I remember just a few months ago, there was quite an abrupt, I'm gonna call it a disconnect between myself and them. And it doesn't mean that I don't love them. It doesn't mean that they don't love me. What it does mean is I saw that they were in a place where they were extremely dysregulated and everything was a threat. And at that point, I realized that nothing I said was going to be received, and I had to let it go. I had to just say, you know what? We are talking different languages. They're not going to see this from my point of view at all because they're worlds away from my point of view. They lack the resources, the years of experience, the wisdom, like whatever, however you want to let that unfold. They're in a different book, an entirely different book. And so instead of letting me get offended and more hurt and causing more upset, I just said, okay, well, this is not a place where we're connecting, right? Big on that connecting. We're not connecting in this phase. And I have to be okay with that. And I have to just learn that this is part of their story and their journey, and they have to play it out the way they need to. And they know when I'm here, and we can try to reconnect another time. Like, I'm not going anywhere. This is, like, I'm not going to force them into something that they don't have the capacity to understand right now.
Right. And that's beautiful that you saw that. I'm going to go with most people.
I mean, I see it, but it's still hurtful. It's still not the funnest. Yeah, it's still not the funnest thing. But because there's also a trigger in me where I feel like I'm losing my children, right? Like you're like, oh my God, I'm losing my kids and all the things, right? And so it's not fun. But if we could approach it like that with everyone in our lives, with that kind of grace and understanding, our lives would just be so much more wholesome and fulfilled.
It's an interesting space. I love that you added that piece about like your back, you have more experience in life and, all these other pieces. And that's one actual interesting piece about childhood. So in college, I was a psych major with a childhood development emphasis. And what's fascinating is that as we're raising children, so I have a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old, and we do have a tendency to to have expectations that our children will just like get, like if we kind of explain it a little bit like a problem. So again, when they're young, right?
Mhm.
We'll explain something to them and then say, well, we explained it, so you should kind of get it.
Yeah.
Which is better and bigger steps than just no, and you should just follow me, which is not my
Right.
favorite approach.
Right. Just follow the leader, but don't ask questions. Like, yeah.
Just don't
Okay.
learn about life. Let's not make
Yeah.
this a learning
Right. Right.
experience. I'm not even going to go there. But we still think that they can then understand it and integrate it, if you will. And that is so much why, you know, we have these extra stuck stresses and traumas from our little T's, right? From our youth, because like our kids with the nominal amount of experience they can have, they can't even begin to start to see things the way we're seeing it, or even really adopt our.
Well, yeah. And that was the thing. They didn't even have the wherewithal to understand the pieces I was bringing forward. I'll give you an example. One of the biggest parts of that conversation was about communication. They felt my communication was too much and overwhelming and blah, 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 all the things, right? But that's because they were coming from a trauma response and then calling it a boundary. They were calling it the trauma response and the stonewalling. Like they were like, we're not going to talk and we're going to do these things and they're going to call it a boundary, but they weren't wrong. To them, that was a boundary, right? To me, I know the difference between a boundary and a trauma response, but they don't. No matter how much, like this is something they have to evolve and learn on their own. I can talk at them about it all day long, but until they're ready to receive that information, it's a waste of my breath.
Yes, we can't, again, just like we're talking about, right? Those are the sunglasses.
Right.
And my sunglasses are just going to say and the sunglasses are their defense mechanism sunglasses. They're protection glasses, just like from the sun, right?
They're like, I'm not ready for this overload.
Too much light. Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah.
So I'm going to really narrow it down, the breadth of what I can tolerate in that moment. And right, if you can't hear it, you can't hear it, and it doesn't matter. I mean, I've tried to make, when my children end up in that space these days, I'm just like, okay. So I created this 5-minute protocol that gets you back in your body and regulates your nervous system. And there's a bit that's 5 minutes and it has all these kind of 5 steps to it, right? But it gives you a little more space so that when we leave the discussion, we're like, okay, maybe we can leave it open, like both parties, right? Like both of us get to go, okay, now that we're regulated again, not great, not perfect, not us agreeing.
Right.
Not saying that, but that like we're willing to entertain this discussion again in the future.
Yeah.
Like let's both agree that maybe, you know, just like we're seeing this from different angles, but I like it because my kids are now adopting that. Like, okay, we can definitely like circle back to this later, right? Instead of it now becoming this kind of build on thing. Like every time my mom talks to me.
Yeah, I don't want it to be this expectation like, oh shit, we're going to be overwhelmed every time she opens her fucking mouth. Like that's not,
those are new glasses.
Yeah, like that's not going to be effective for anything either. So I'm just like in that place where luckily I have the awareness to be able to say, okay, I can witness you here. I can see where you're coming from, even though I don't agree. And I know that there's a big difference between a boundary and a trauma response. But to you, I get it. Like I understand why this looks this way to you. Okay, I can honor that.
Yes. And, you know, it's tricky business for kids right now in that age group.
Oh, for sure.
Because I'll say, I don't know how your children were, but my kids were in 6th grade and freshman year during COVID, the time where they're supposed to be, I'm out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Where the old little lizard brain or ape brain is like, we never want to hang out with our people again. Like, we only want to hang out with other people. And then, and instead, my kids were told, like,
stay home and
if you hang out with other people, you die, kind of thing. Opposite. So my kids have so much they were already kind of anxious because that was their youth, was me going through my stress. And so we were working through a lot of talk about habituated nervous system dysregulation, but those kinds of things, my poor kids, that's all we ever talk about. I'm like, how do you feel in your body right now? How do you do this? Because I feel like I'm trying to rewire a bunch of old, you know,
and I have to do mine from a distance because my kids don't live with me. Like
Oh,
they're,
yes.
doing the adult thing out and kind of doing that. I mean, my 18-year-old does come back and forth and spend a little more time with me still on like weekends or whatever. But for the most part, I'm the empty nester. Like my kids are
Yeah.
grown and so it does limit the
Yes.
amount of interaction, which if it was their story, they'd be like, oh, thank fucking God, because she just overwhelms us when she wants to talk, right? Lord forbid we have to connect with mom. Good God. But like so it does limit that and it makes it
Yeah.
to where I don't have any choice but to be patient. They have to just grow at their own pace, and I'm here when they're ready.
Yep. And here we are back to our patients. It is
Yeah, for sure.
everything. I think that's why the authenticity is so good, or like our little circle and all that.
Yeah.
You got to be so cool with yourself that you're like, all right, well, I'll see you again in a little while, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
go and hang out and, like I said, talk to trees and whatever we like to do on our spare time. And that's the only thing that gets us through in the patients. It's the urgency that I think
Yeah.
throws a wrench into so many things.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think that's true.
Yeah. Um,
So
I have
fun.
to I have to pivot for 2 seconds though, because I know you're a fan of trees, Nicole. And that
Yes.
I don't know. I guess I saw on your Instagram that there was a lot of mentions of trees, and how they can be very grounding. And I love trees so much. So I just need to know for my personal sake. Do you have like a favorite tree? Is there?
That I love. I am a tree addict, and actually just posted on my Facebook page today. I found this video of these people in Finland, and they have like a tree contest. Like one of the versions is
What?
how many trees can you hug in like 20 in like 2 minutes. You have to hug each tree for 5 seconds, and then you move on. And there are all these different pieces of it because, well, and then one of them is your dedication to a tree. So there's a video of this dude like proposing to a tree, and like she said yes. So like all the stuff. I mean, it's very elaborate. But
Oh my
there's
God,
actual
that's
real
funny.
it's awesome. So of course I had to go find some scientific study that actually tells you that, I mean, nature heals us. I'm a huge nature advocate. It makes sense. We're from nature.
Well,
It
and
would
we
make
know
sense.
how grounding trees are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And all of it, all of
Hmm.
nature together in and of
Hmm.
itself is a huge body coherence creator. Um, However, trees are, I don't have I have some favorite trees that I hang out with. I go and I either hug a tree or sit in a tree almost every day. But you want to know the most beautiful thing, and they're all different kinds. Oaks and I love pine trees. Anything, I'll just be walking on a trail and a tree, I'll just be like, you. And then I just go over it and like put my hands on it and like get my grounding down and I imagine all my roots and I have beautiful discussions. I actually was sitting in a tree once. It was the first time it actually had happened. Sitting in a tree and my hands were on it and all of a sudden, I started getting all these visions. It was right before a lot of those fires started in California. I mean, and it
Hmm.
was images of like apocalypse, like fires. And all this is
Okay.
really
Yeah.
weird. I don't even know what's going on. And then all of a sudden, it was like 2 months later, all of these things, which really weren't consistent. This was years ago. And I was like, okay. And that is not the kind of woo magic I generally have the skill for. So
Oh,
that was
yeah,
like a
that's
one
like
and
our
done.
territory usually.
Yeah, that was like a one and done for me. I'm much more human spiritual and I leave the high level stuff for others. Um, However, I take people to into the woods and to sit in trees,
Hmm.
and you would be shocked. I have this one tree I make people, I force them. No, I invite them to stand in it, and there are people come out, they're like, I feel like I was in a different like dimension.
Oh,
But this
nice.
one time I was leading a wander on John Muir's property because I help lead wellness walks on the in the John Muir National Park. And there was an autistic boy about 13, and he was on the walk, and I'm doing my nature bathing spiel, like look at the bush and see how that represents how your lungs look, and trying to get people to connect in different ways. But about half an hour in, he had done amazing, and he was just starting to be like, I don't have more patience for you. And I'm like, I get it. He's asking for his phone and all that. And I thought, let's go hug this tree. Last thing, and then we'll get moving. And so we go over to the tree, and it's like the ranger and this boy's mom. And I ask him, I'm like, okay, just put your arms around the tree. I believe it's a sequoia, just so we have
Hmm.
a So you know what tree it is. And he puts his arms on and I'm like, kind of shush your feet up so they're kind of, around the tree. And I just say, like, put your ear on the tree and try to imagine your feet are like becoming the roots like the tree. And just see if the tree has something to say to you. He sat on that tree for 25 minutes.
Mm,
And his mom finally had to pull him off because they
Wow.
had to go.
Like
And she was crying.
super like pulled him in.
yeah.
Yeah, it
Well,
was
I
um,
Oh, I'm sorry. I had asked the question because I was curious, but also I think it ties in nicely to kind of getting back in our body. I think nature has such a way of doing that. And
Mhm.
even, like we're around, I think it's even so many like positive ions and things like that with
I
like
was
the
gonna
mhm.
say
electronics.
it's like
and the-
even the magnetic field.
Right. So like
Yeah.
nature has a lot of negative ions, which are very, balancing and grounding and healthy for us. And so I think if we're feeling dysregulated, at least for me, it's one of the quickest ways I feel like if I can, I can go regulate. I was kind of curious as well if you've had any experiences like that with trees, like intuitive experiences, because I come at it from a place of I believe everything is consciousness and that we're all just mirrors for each other. So it might seem really up in the woo-woo spectrum, for some people, but I think even trees can be mirrors for us in some way. Um, but I love that. So I did notice that, on your Instagram and everything. I'm like, oh, she's speaking my language with the trees.
I love it. Yes, I do. I think they honestly, I mean, when I say talk to trees, I mean, I literally sit and have discourse with them. It's not just like,
Yeah.
hey, pal, how's it going? And then I'm like, haha, isn't this fun? Like, that would be my one real inlet into getting that like maybe higher level of connection is through the trees and nature alone, just like you're saying, the negative ions, the fight insides in the trees up our killer cells in our body and boost our immune system. I mean, there's a book called Nature Fix by Florence Williams, and she goes through kind of chapter by chapter, hitting all of this, the senses of the body, and with it's all science based, this one, and she's talking about like this is how our ears, this is how we're experiencing life through our ears, and this is why nature heals that, right? And she actually has a podcast 5-point series, I think, that's called the 3-day effect, that if you can stay out in nature for 3 days, the monumental healing that happens to your physical body physiologically, as well as your mind, like your executive processor actually heals and you have higher capacity to perform, like mental tasks and things like that. And to me, I try every time someone says a thing to me about like this will help your body or this will whatever, I'm like, well, okay, what would it be like if we were living in our most like original path of, kind of tribal living?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it would make sense that our bodies would feel most calm and,
Yeah.
whatnot in connection with nature. And, we just, I love it. I can't not, I can't not have it. I'm actually headed to the mountains tomorrow for my Mother's Day treat to myself.
Oh, well,
Oh,
see, there you go.
yeah.
Off to the woods we go.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. To find ourselves.
Yeah, I
But
love that.
beautiful.
Well, I love that. And I think it also makes a lot of sense. Like we come from nature. I mean, we have, we need things like magnesium and we have copper in our blood and, all that. So we come from that. And I think we are in a society now that kind of disconnects us a little bit from that idea,
Hmm.
that we are separate from nature somehow, when in reality, that's just not the case. And I think, like you said, back to when there was tribal living and things like that, like we lived outside. We had certain structures and things like that for shelter, but not in the way that we do now. And I think there's been like a lost kind of connection to a lot of that. And even the way that we kind of, which is a whole nother conversation, but just to kind of further the point, in the way that we treat some of the nature around us, it every time I see something like that happening, I'm always thinking in my head, like, we are still a part of it. You are harming yourself in a way. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So it
there
just
is a
seems
huge
interesting.
overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And I think our ability to feel comfortable in nature also tells us how regulated we are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The easier it is for us to be in that quiet surroundings, in that gentleness, in the fractal patterns, right, of the leaves and the sounds of birds and all of that, which all create, again, a resonance in us of coming back to ourselves, the harder it is for people to get. That's like when I do these wellness walks, I can tell pretty much where you are on the spectrum of regulation based on how well you can get there. And generally I lead these walks, we go and sit in trees, and then we go look at grass, and we do all this sensory stuff and somatic stuff. And there's a labyrinth depending on where we are. So I make people walk the labyrinth because that's really good for the nervous system as well. And it's a powerful labyrinth. And we come out after their bodies feel more regulated. That's when I lead them through guided meditation, actually. And if I can get their bodies to get calm enough, that's when they can actually meditate effectively in the sense of like actually calming down. And those who are like antsy during that, you can just see, and they're sitting there, and they're, the people who are chill, like flies are landing on them, they don't even notice. See,
Yeah.
it's an interesting space, and it's great. I mean, we all can't be this philosophy. If we all healed at once and like the world was utopia, it would kind of just like vanish.
It'd be fucking boring.
Well,
So
the science experiment would be over. So I feel like they throw it in the trash, and then we'd have to start all over somewhere else because we figured it out. Like if we all get enlightened and self-actualized, then great. I guess I just move things with my mind, and then what? I don't even know. We're all perfectly lovely to each other, and then there's no human experience to experience anymore. It's just like godliness, maybe. I don't know, but that's my thought. So let's not all get too eager to heal.
Put us out of a job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I got things to do out here.
For sure.
Love that. No, that's amazing. I love everything that you
No, this
said.
has been a fun conversation, Nicole. Thank you so much for being with us today. I think that you've definitely put your spin on things, and I think that there's some great takeaways here for sure.
Thank you. This has been this has just been a pleasure. It's not too often that I get to speak across the entire board of all the things, right? And get to talk about the intertwining. So you two are so knowledgeable and so aware, and it's been a delight. You're my people, and I'm
Thank
really
you.
grateful.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that we get to connect and we get to show up in a way where people get to come on here and feel safe enough to like talk about their experiences and what they can offer the world. Like that was exactly what we wanted to do. So
yeah.
You're doing
And
it.
I will say, Nicole, you have a really great way of like approaching some of these topics with like a groundedness. Like you can tell at least I can kind of get from your energy, like that you are very much in your body when you're talking about these things, which is what we've been talking about, go figure. And I love that because I think on some level, it doesn't make anyone right or wrong or anything like that. It's not a judgment, but kind of like we said earlier, some people speak about these ideas and maybe they're not so in their body. And again, that's okay. That's their journey, but you're very embodied with it. You're very grounded with it. And, it's very seamless the way everything kind of, the way you explain things and all that. So I appreciated that.
Thank you.
yeah, and your passion shines through because like when you're talking about it, you glow, girl. You are so glowy.
Yeah.
Oh, I get so excited. I'm not get like, oh, we get to talk about all the things that I love to talk about, that I think about all the time. And then someone will sit, because most of my friends, I love them to death. And they're just like, I don't know what you're saying. And
they're like, yeah, it's above our pay grade, lady.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when do we get to go get cocktails? Like, I'm like, but we're talking about like the human body and life experience, like a giant science project that all you have to do is lean into curiosity. And that's, I think, if anyone wants to take away something from this, that like, I feel like the three of us have created some really beautiful things to consider. My offer is curiosity.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Curiosity saves lives.
Like just ask the questions. Yeah, just ask the questions.
And so I don't like that there's that like curiosity killed the cat. And I'm like, did it though? And cats have 9 lives. So at least they just keep coming back. But I'm like, curiosity is what it saves us. It saves us from ourselves and from really controversy and problems and anger and so many things, and offers us a path to healing and self-love and self-care and that authenticity piece and an ability to connect with others in different ways. We have to just kind of open that tiny window to wonder.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my God, I
Lee.
want to talk to you guys like every week.
We're all besties now. It's fine.
Yep. Yep. Lee, did you have anything else before we wrap it up?
No, I think that was it. Just thank you again, Nicole, for coming on and sharing your wisdom. And yeah, I mean, it's been amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, you've been an absolute delight, Nicole. Thank you so much. So I think we're going to stop it here unless you have anything else you want to add or you.
No,
Yeah.
this has just been a great experience, and I hope people get to start getting curious about what we talked about.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think so. Okay. Well, I'm going to stop it here. So I'm going to thank our listeners too. Bye, you guys. See you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Own Your Essence. We're so grateful to our guests for sharing their wisdom and to you, our listeners, for being part of this journey towards healing and empowerment. If today's conversation resonated with you, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and share this space with others who might need it. If you have any questions, topic ideas, want to be a guest, or would like to work with myself or April privately, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. And we'll see you next episode.